Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today for this event and also for Discoverfest in general. We are on day 3 of a full week, jam-packed with different events and learning experiences. We got everything from business and marketing to language learning to art. There's mosaic tiles and also just how to sing better, speak German. It's such a blast this whole week. And my name is Jonah from Discover, and we are going to be talking to Terry Rice today about the 5 steps to launching and scaling your consulting business. Terry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm in the midst of this, learning so much and just having a blast. It is so fun. And before we get started, want to set a couple expectations, make sure everyone can hear and see us all right. So please pop in the chat, let us know if the audio and video is good. Also, feel free to call out where you're tuning in from, maybe how you heard about Terry, how you heard about Discover, and feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation, although we will have a dedicated Q&A after Terry does his presentation. So if we don't answer the questions right away, we'll get to them then in that dedicated time. Also, if Terry's moving fast or life happens around you like it does, don't fret. There will be a replay available. It'll be in this YouTube page, on the Discover event page, and also emailed to you along with the course offer, which we'll talk about later if you RSVP to the event. All that said, proper introduction. Like I said, we're talking to Terry Rice, and we are going to be talking about the 5 steps to launching and scaling your consulting business. We're going to talk about how to develop simple but impactful marketing strategies to attract prospects and valuable partnerships, and also learn how to package, price, and present your services in a competitive environment. Improve overall business processes by properly managing your leads, deal pipeline, and revenue projections. A little background on Terry. Terry Rice is a business development consultant and staff writer at Entrepreneur Magazine. His work is focused on advising professionals on how to launch or scale their knowledge-based business so they can get paid for who they are instead of just what they do. Terry, I think it's either my second or third event with you, but it's always a delight and always learn so much. And I want to get out of the way so we can get into it. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks. I appreciate that. And just so everyone knows, as a quick heads up here, I have a 1-month-old daughter, and my wife is in an appointment right now. So if she wakes up, you're going to see me disappear real quick and come back with a small child. But I think the benefit of that is all of us, who have had to juggle one thing or another know what that's like. And fortunately, when you're an entrepreneur, in this case, a knowledge-based entrepreneur, you have much more freedom to do so. And beyond that, I mean, I think it's great that historically we've seen mostly women bear the burden of taking care of kids, even when they are working. So I'm glad to be a part of this. I'm gonna call it a wave called doing the right thing of men who are also doing that. And so yeah, just stay tuned for that. But yeah, thanks so much for the introduction. You see more about me on here. So I'm hearing a little bit of background noise. Is that me or is that you, Jonah?
That might be me. Let me know if it goes away right.
It is actually still playing. It's pleasant music, but I'm just hearing it. That's all.
You're hearing actual music?
I'm hearing a video playing of me talking, which is even more interesting.
Oh, I'm not hearing that at all on my end.
All right.
So wow.
Let me check something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my daughter doing something. All right.
No worries. Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate.
That was me. All right.
All good. All good.
All right. So let me go back to sharing my screen again.
Oh, good. We want to make sure it is all rolling, so appreciate it. That would be so distracting if it was going.
Yeah, I hate hearing myself on video. Like, I always think my voice is deeper than it actually is. So it's like,
oh, I relate to that. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's hop into it. So
sweet. Yep. Presentation is up. We're rolling.
Awesome. So here's my personal philosophy: to be purpose-driven, prepared, and patient. And I think that's very timely right now because I am purpose-driven in what we're doing right now. I like helping people launch their business while avoiding a lot of the mistakes I made when I first started mine. Luckily, I'm prepared too. I've done this presentation a few times. So even though I'm hearing myself talk and my daughter might wake up, I can successfully get through this without messing up. And patience. Patience is a form of wisdom, knowing that it takes time for things to evolve. So when you are launching any kind of business, realize that as long as you're purpose-driven and prepared, you will find success, but that patience is going to be a valuable ally. So what are we talking about today? The first thing is just kind of getting into the entrepreneurial mindset, because you might be really good at what you do. Let's say you have a 9 to 5 job, but it's totally different applying that skill set while also building a business. So I want to bring that up. The next thing is demonstrating your expertise, right? How do you show your zone of genius to people so they reach out to you and say, hey, how can you help me with my specific problems? Which leads into finding clients, but not in a cheesy way where you're DMing people on social media or like dancing on TikTok or whatever. I want to show you how you find clients by attracting them to you. And we will speak a bit about various income streams, because as a knowledge-based expert, your knowledge is a hub. And there's several spokes you can use to generate revenue. You can do obviously coaching or consulting. You can do paid speaking gigs. You can have an online course through Teachable. There's several different ways. What I don't want you to do is limit yourself because you think you can only do coaching or consulting, right? And please do ask any questions as I'm going through this. And then, Joan, I can't see them, so just feel free to interrupt me as they come in, but I want to make sure that you get your bespoke outcome from today. So first thing is your mindset. And this is super, super important. I learned this when I first left Facebook to start my own business. You judge yourself based on what you're capable of doing, but other people judge you based on what you've done and what you demonstrate. So that's your website, your social media, videos, podcasts, conferences, so on and so forth. So if you let your best thoughts and perspectives stay trapped inside of your head, no one's going to know how amazing you are. And some of you might not feel comfortable doing that in one medium another. So I'm going to show you different ways of doing that. But just being good at your job is not good enough. You have to demonstrate it to people, right? So get used to that thought. And what I want to do now is show you what I call the 5 pillars of consulting success. So get ready to write this down, because if you follow this process, you will be successful. And you might think to yourself, well, Terry, like I have a very unique niche, like everything's not the same. There's no cookie cutter approach to it. The benefit of process is if you follow it, you can get as creative as you want, yet still reach your desired outcome on the other side. So you all want to have a process for how you help people as well. And here's mine. The first one is establishing clarity and vision. Clarity on what you do, who you do it for, and of course, how much you charge, but also the vision you have for yourself, just on your personal life and your professional life, because you are going to experience a lot of challenges. But if you want to accomplish that goal, that vision, more than you want to avoid those challenges, you'll have all the motivation needed to go forward. So I think you have to first become self-aware before you can build a business, because you have to know what's at stake for you. Now, the next one is your business process. These are the apps, the tools, the routines that you use to spend more time in your zone of genius and less time on boring admin tasks that waste your time, energy, and talent. And part of that could also be hiring a virtual assistant, which I have 2 of. That way I can still raise my children and make sure my business keeps on running. Should probably hire a babysitter too in this case. After that, branding and marketing. How do you express your zone of genius through your content, through public appearances, through media, in a way that attracts your target audience to you, so that when it does come time for pitching and proposals, these are inbound leads. People reaching out to you saying, Terry, I see you posting on LinkedIn, or Joan, I see you talking on Clubhouse. How can you help me? And the benefit is when it's time to write a proposal, you're just going to ask them on the phone, okay, what do you need to see in this thing? Because my proposals used to be like 40 pages long for no reason. Half the time, my clients just wanted an invoice. Last step is fulfillment. It's very important. Fulfillment. It starts with you fulfilling the promises that you made to your clients, because that way you grow through referrals and testimonials as opposed to sales and marketing. But it's also being self-fulfilled. Are you happy? Do you have more time, lifestyle, and financial freedom? Because there's no reason you should start your own business and still be miserable. This is the process I walk through with my clients, and the same process I walked through in the course that I've talked about earlier. Actually, I didn't talk about earlier, but you probably saw on the landing page when you register for this course. So everything I'm going to talk about today, we go deeper into, and not to get too salesy, but the one main benefit of joining my online course is you can meet with me every week for live Q&A, so I can answer your bespoke questions, help you set your goals, and then meet new ones after you beat those goals. Let's go deeper into this now. First one's clarity and vision. And here's where a lot of people mess up. So this part's super important. You want to do audience research. You want to be audience driven in the content and the solutions that you present. So do some research. There's a few ways to do so. The easiest is doing something called social listening. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's you going on various social media channels where your audience is and reading their comments. So for example, one of my clients and now a friend is a sleep health educator. So she'll go to Reddit and then go to the subreddit for insomnia and read those comments. And that's how she learns more about her target audience. And actually, that's how she developed a new service offering during COVID, because she found a new subset of people that were experiencing insomnia by way of teachers. So teachers who weren't used to taking in so much blue light by being in front of a computer, or getting emails from parents at all hours of the night worried about their kids. So she first developed a program for teachers, and then she wanted to increase the impact of that. So developed one on the school level, so more money, more impact, and then finally on a district level. So when you get one district, you get all the schools within the district as well as all the teachers. That's the way I want you to think, right? Oh, here's a problem. I can solve that, but what's the next level up? How can I make this even more impactful and as a result, make even more money? We'll go deeper into this later, but that's the key to unlocking your revenue potential, is seeing the opportunity within the opportunity, right? Now, another way you can do this research is by surveys. And that's exactly what I did about a year ago on LinkedIn. I just sent out a survey to consultants saying, hey, what's the biggest problem you have in regards to growing your business? I'm not going to go into too much detail on that right now, but I wrote an article about it for Entrepreneur Magazine. So if you go to my website or just go to Entrepreneur and look for me, you'll see step by step how to do this. But that's how I built this program, as well as my coaching program that I offer live. So what you don't want to do is have this problem where you create a solution with no real problems and then wonder why no one wants to buy your product or service. Now, unfortunately, this stuff is boring. It's not as fun as doing a cool post on Instagram or a cool, video on LinkedIn or whatever. But this is how you make sure that you have value to offer your target audience because they've asked for it. So you want to be audience driven, not try to drive something to your audience they didn't ask for. And then here's one of my favorite quotes too. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So doing all that research helps you become more empathetic. And as a result of that, you can show you care more and make a more genuine connection. So do all that stuff first, then we can move on to branding and marketing. But even that, I think too often we get caught up with doing social media. And sure, social media is great, but 9 times out of 10, your first few clients are going to come from your network, your personal or your professional network. So reach out to them and say, hey, by the way, I have this new service. I help e-commerce companies leverage paid Instagram to grow their revenue and their brand. And you want to be that clear in regards to how you promote yourself. That's why clarity comes first. But you're much more likely to get a new client from a mutual connection than you are from DMing someone randomly on social media. So start there. I've done a lot of research on this. The majority of times your first client is going to come from someone you know or through someone that you know. So start there. And the benefit is when you get that first client, you don't have to pretend like you're an expert. You're like, hey, well, Jonah told you I just started, right? Cool. Glad we're in agreement on that. And I'm looking forward to working with you. But by the way, I'm still getting in my groove here. Now, after that, sure, yes, do create social media content or written content. And I'm going to say, hey, create engaging content. You might think, Terry, what's that mean? Well, I think too often as a professional service provider, we just talk about ourselves the whole time. I'm so smart, click here, buy now, so on and so forth. But what you want to do is create content that solves a problem. So you want to think of 10 questions that your audience has, and then create content that answers those questions. Questions create content. Write that down. Questions create content. It's super important because if you're wondering what to write about, you're saying what's valuable. Well, valuable information would solve a problem, right? That's why people Google stuff. Same thing. And if you're thinking, Terry, look, man, I can't think of 10 questions that my audience has. Hey, that's cool, but that tells me you have to go back and do some research too, because you don't have enough information about your target audience to properly serve them if you can't think of 10 questions that they have. Then you can put them on your website, on social media. You can create videos about it, so on and so forth. But this is how you can get started creating content. Just answer those 10 questions, right? But here's the thing. After a while, that's kind of basic. It's cool that you have this how-to content or answering questions, but the way that you grow your brand and your revenue is by offering your perspective and your worldview. What makes you different from everybody else? So many times entrepreneurs are trying to find their unique differentiator. Oh, we do this instead of that. You already have it. It's your personality. It's your personal brand. And you all have a personal brand. Right now, I'm going to show you how to control the narrative, but regardless if you're trying or not, you have a personal brand. So how do you do that? You consistently write about the same themes with your content that reinforce who you are, what you care about, and your expertise. And this next opportunity, I would take a screenshot of this because this is more or less what I call a content marketing matrix. And you can just jot down ideas in each little part here. So where it says your area of expertise, you can think, okay, well, what's a good tip for my audience? Let's say you're a digital marketer. Oh, here's how you can adjust to all these random updates from iOS. It could be an image of that. or a video of you talking about how to use Google Analytics to make up for some of the tracking that you're missing due to these updates from iOS. Or it could also just be written text. Like, hey, I know we're all going through this right now. Let's push through it, something encouraging. So your area of expertise definitely has to be one of your content pillars. Next up, it can be industry updates. Here's what's going on in the digital marketing industry that we have to be aware of, one thing or another. Get that content out there because that shows that you're staying on top of mind of what's going on and you're a relevant source of information. Next up, interests, hobbies, personal life. You can have a few categories that align with that. It could be your hobbies. It could be the fact that you have a family or a dog or whatever. But that's how you show your personality. Super important. All right. So what I want to do here is pause for a minute. Jonah, I just heard my daughter wake up. Can you can you cover for me for a moment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I'll be
And
back
I
briefly. If you want to show them that video, that'll be awesome.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I want to, there's a couple things I wanted to say. First off, I've done a similar event with Terry before, and this matrix is so helpful for my own socials and for some clients I've had and everything. It makes a world of difference from just like waking up every day and wondering like, what am I gonna post? I know I need to post, but like, what is it gonna be? So just can't recommend it enough. It's a beautiful place to start and makes it so much easier to just start rationalizing like, how do people post every day or 3 times a week or even like once a week? It can be intimidating. So wildly want to recommend that. And then I did want to show, yeah, this is Terry's Instagram, and he's going and taking care of his daughter real quick, but it's so fun because he actually did some stories today updating on this. So let's go back to the beginning. So confidence comes from one place and one place, and you can see he's here. This is his daughter. As you may have noticed, she's currently not a happy camper. She's tired but leading into a webinar where we are now, and my plan is to keep her awake. But this is one of the coolest things about Terry's job is his business, he's actually put himself in the position to do this where he can take care of the family as well as grow a business and do these webinars. I love it. And she's so sweet. And he's talking here.
If you want to see forget it.
No, we're here today. So it's just fun. Wanted to share that and love Terry. I just absolutely love that you're able to do this because it's so hard when you have to sacrifice like either work or the family, and it's just a hard line one way or the other.
Yeah, I appreciate that. She stopped crying, so let's see if it keeps up or not.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if
no
not,
problem.
I'll cut out again. So
Yeah.
going back to this, and Jonah, I heard what you're saying, like how it makes it so much easier to post every day because really what you're going to do is just going to jot down ideas,
Yeah.
not the full post, just ideas of what you can talk about. So for example, one of my pillars is going to be coaching consulting tips. I could have an infographic on how to determine your fees or a video about how to deal with rude clients. And I think kind of timely, lower right-hand corner, you see a video or a text about my kids making noise while I'm on calls like this right now. Because it does happen, and it happened quite a bit, obviously, during 2020. But here's one post that I created based on that thought. I said, you know what? People don't care about your kids. It sounds kind of inflammatory, right? Here's how I found out. And I said, I kept on apologizing for the amount of noise my kids were making, but everyone always said it was cool. We don't mind. We don't care. We care about you and the value that you have to provide. So I ended this by saying, if you're so worried about the noise your kids are making, you'll never be fully present in how you're communicating with other people, other stakeholders, other people in a webinar like this. So focus on that since we're all in this together. So really, I'm just taking slices of my life, and this is true because you just saw it happen, and sharing content about that. But the thing is, that's how you stand out. That's how you build your personal brand, by being authentic, by being engaging, and in this case, being a bit vulnerable, saying like, hey, it is kind of frustrating when my kids make noise while I'm on calls, but they live here, and that's how it is. I also had another one where I just noticed that Louis Vuitton was selling a kite for $10,000, $10,000. And I said, that's a lot of money, obviously. So I said, it's 2020 and Louis Vuitton selling a kite for $10,000. But many consultants are afraid to charge $10,000 for their services. It's not the economy, it's your mindset. And if you don't make any changes, 2021 is not looking any better. So again, I'm just talking about a kite in this case, but believe it or not, I landed clients from this post because people are like, man, this guy is right. Like, why are people paying more for a kite than they are for me? So I encourage you to just look past what you're seeing in the world in your day to day and realize there's stories happening around you all the time, right? Just like Jonah showed you that Instagram story that I put up right before now. There's stories happening all the time, and that's what's going to make you stand out, not just being an expert, because there's plenty of experts out there. But how do people know, like, and trust you? It's by you sharing this personal side of your life, right? As much as you feel comfortable with, but that's the differentiator. Another thing you want to do is make sure that you engage with your audience on social media. Don't just post, but engage. So what you might want to find is relevant hashtags or individuals that they follow, and then from there, not only engage with these profiles, but anyone who comments on the profiles too. So in my case, Simon Sinek is people in my target audience. So someone in my target audience that people might follow. And if you notice, I had this one comment here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just my comment alone got 52 likes and 13 replies. So if you're thinking, Terry, man, how do I get started though? Like, you have a decent following, you've been doing this for a while. How do I get started? Find someone else who was going to naturally attract your audience and then comment on their content. There's no hacks, but this is the shortcut. So if you take anything away from how to use social media today, it's that. Don't try to build your brand by yourself. Piggyback off other people's success by commenting on their content and the people that are commenting. That part's so important, because Simon Sinek is never going to care about me. He's never going to comment back. And even if he does, it's probably his assistant. It's not him. But all these other random people like Gary and Victoria will. And that's how you grow your brand. So please just write this down, take a screenshot, do whatever you got to do. But if you do this, you'll find much more success on social media. Last thing here, 80% of your content should provide value, and the other 20% should be more transactional, meaning click here, buy now. That's the benefit of posting more often, though. Because if you post 5 times a week, once a week, you can be transactional by math. And that's when you remind people of what you are, what you do, and how you can help them, right? So here's an example. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I was basically saying, hey, does anyone want to work with me? And this one woman said, I'm in. And this other guy said, I'm in. Spoiler alert, only one of them actually signed up. But the moral of the story is, I put this post up, 8,000 people saw it. I paid $0 for it. And as a result, I landed a client. So these are the things you want to do. You don't want to be DMing people randomly and saying, oh, can you talk to me about your business goals or whatever? Because then you're just adding to the noise. But if you add value to the conversation, that's how you stand out, right? And I'll give you one more tip because it's super valuable. Another thing you can do is do research on your target audience in your industry. So reach out to 50 experts and say, I have this one question survey. Hey, what's the best money tip you have for people going into 2022? And then share that on a blog, on a white paper, on social media, whatever it may be. That's going to naturally boost your credibility because you have all these really smart people chiming in and contributing to your content. If I was just starting out right now and had no established brand whatsoever, this is the first thing I would do. It's this. I would do that research, and then I would pitch other organizations that already have access to my target audience and say, hey, I have this presentation on the 50 money trends going into 2022 or whatever it is. I would love to deliver it to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce or some other organization that my audience belongs to. Do this stuff, right? Do this stuff. Don't waste time or energy and sometimes, lower your self-esteem by reaching out to random people. Deliver value and do so at an organizational level, right? Speaking of that, if you can do public speaking, one thing you want to develop, and this is anyone who works with me, this is a non-negotiable, is developing a signature speaking topic. This is a topic that you can give over and over again to relevant audiences. And on my end, when I first started consulting, I actually was a digital marketing consultant. And I had this talk called Digital Marketing for Founders. And I reached out to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce and said, hey, can I deliver this to your organization as an in-person workshop? This is back in 2015. And they're like, yeah, sure, go for it. So I did that. And then as a result of that, they promoted me to their email list. This is the most important part. Find the stakeholders that have access to your audience. In this case, it was the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and I was working with business owners, and then reach out to them with some kind of value. In this case, a talk on digital marketing for founders. Have them promote you. And as a result, you absorb all that attention and have a reason for them to follow up with you. If you do these things, you will find success much quicker, and you'll get a lot of inbound interest that just keeps on snowballing between other people wanting to work with you, either as a speaker or as a consultant. So let me stop here. And Joan, I want to see if there's any questions, because if you just do this stuff, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and frustration. These are things I didn't know when I first started. I was doing cold calling, I was doing cold emailing, and I was doing this stuff at like 4:30 in the morning before my kids woke up, and it was frustrating and demoralizing. That's what I'm trying to save you from right now by giving you these tips. So, Joan, like I said, I'll pause. Are we seeing anything come in that I can help with?
No questions at the moment, and everyone watching, feel free to pop those questions in. I know we said we have a Q&A, but we are happy to answer questions as they come up. And Terry, one thing I wanted to ask, I'll pop in and ask a question if I can, but just in this process, I like feeling like you can consult someone else can be difficult. So in that process, like throughout the process, do you have any advice for just like getting over the imposter syndrome? Because I know it's not just something you get over, it keeps popping back up. So you might start posting and then you're doing good, but one post doesn't do well and you're like, oh, who am I? Do I know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah, I think the first thing starts with a question of yourself, which is, am I trying to rip people off? And hopefully the
mm,
answer is no. If the answer is no, you proceed to the next question. Okay, well, what level of expertise am I at? Pretend you're a digital
mm,
marketer, scale of 1 to 10, you're a 4. Cool. Just be open about the fact you're a 4, but be the best 4 out there.
right,
You know what I
right,
mean? So it's like, you don't have to be like, the top 10% or whatever, but like, hey, here's what I can do. I'm going to do it very well. And by the way, I actually like what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep on getting better and better and better. You can't be an imposter if you're being honest. But if you think you have to be a level 9 or 10 to be a consultant, that's where you're going to fall prey to that imposter syndrome. So just
right.
say, hey man, I'm a 4 and I do the work of a 4 very well. and and I charge accordingly as a 4. But that's what it is. It's just being honest with yourself first and then being
Right.
honest with others. Then there's nothing to hide.
Right. And we did have a question coming in from Sharon, and we can, if there's a deeper kind of answer later on, we can get that in the Q&A. But I think it's a really good question. Like Sharon is saying she has a 33-year-old event production company and want to branch out into like consulting. What are the first 3 steps I should take? And I'm going to just synthesize that a little bit also into like, say you have a successful business, but you want to add this like consulting aspect because you clearly know what you're talking about if you've run a business that long. Like, is there a absolute here's where you start to get that to accomplish that?
Yeah, a few things. One is I would start with my audience. What audience do I want to serve with this skill? And then from there, what problems do they have? Because you know,
Mm,
as an expert, an insider, like, oh, people always forget this, they always forget that, so on and so forth.
right.
So you can say, like, here's the process, like, here's an audit that I would go through if I was consulting someone to solve that problem. And then after that, it's getting some content out there saying, here's a common problem, here's a solution, so on and so forth. So I'll repeat it. Start with the audience, get specific, think about their problems,
Hmm.
document that solution, and then share your thoughts around that solution as well.
Mm. And then maybe just one more question, and then we can keep rolling. But I think this is a good thing to differentiate. My disputer is writing. How do you differentiate consulting from coaching?
Yeah. Your name's My Disputer? Okay.
That's the account name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like this might be contentious. So yeah, the operational definition of coaching is when you ask questions that pull the answer out of someone. So let's
Mm,
pretend you're saying, "Hey, I'm having trouble with my business." You might say, "Well, you know your business better than anyone." It's like, what are the problems that you're having, and how do you think you might be able to solve them? And get the answer to come from internally. Whereas consulting, you're more like, "Hey, you got problems. Here's my solution. Implement it. Let's go." Right.
mm.
And I think the best consultants know when to coach, and the best coaches know when to consult. Because if I'm coaching someone and saying, Jonah, like, what do you think? What would be a natural way for you to solve this problem? And you're still stuck after a while. I'll say, Jonah, look, dude, just do this, man. Like, it's taking too long.
Right, right.
So,
So you really don't. It's good to be. It's good to be versed in both. But maybe like, how do you know which you want to market more? Is it general that consulting or coaching is worth more? Is there one that's better to focus on?
I would say this. I can't say one's worth more, because if you could be a life coach for some executive at
And
at
make
some
it
really high
right.
company, yeah, and you're going to make bank, working with her. You could be a consultant for some smaller business, and like that's not going to be as well off. I think, and this is not my belief, but I think sometimes coaches get a bad rap because they don't always deliver like nuts and bolts solutions. It's like, well, what do you think? What
Mm,
do you think? Which is valuable because I've been coached before. I'm like, whoa, that was great. You know what I mean? So I get the value, whereas some people might not. They're like, dude, just tell me what to do. And it's like, well, if I tell you what to do now, like you're not going to know what to do next time because you don't know how to
right,
solve problems
right,
yourself.
right, right,
so,
right.
so, so I think that's where the value of coaching comes in. But I think there's no one I know, any professional I know, who would not benefit from coaching in one way or another. And that's
Right,
why you see the most popular, most successful executives who have coaches and consultants, but they realize the value of coaching so they can start solving their own problems as well.
right. Love it. That was all the questions for the moment, so I'll let you keep going. But yeah, but
Cool.
keep asking questions, everyone. We'll have time to get to all of them.
Yeah. Cool. And this is like a quick template you can use for outreach. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is something else you get in the course is this thing called the Coaching Consulting Playbook. It's 113 pages of templates, scripts, and guides you can use. So you can just plug your own information into stuff like this and send it off to, in this case, get a speaking engagement. Next thing is you need to have some kind of opt-in content, and we often call that a lead magnet. This is content that you would exchange for, and you would offer in exchange for your audience's contact information, right? That we can nurture them during through email marketing, and it has to be valuable information that solves a real problem or exposes it to something they didn't even know was a problem and solves it for them. So one that I used before was the 10 biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make on social media and what you should do instead. So naturally, the title's like, well, shoot, what are the biggest mistakes? Like, I don't know. Let me find out. And what I did is I interviewed a lot of thought leaders for this. So for example, like Neil Patel, Amy Porterfield, anyone who's like familiar with digital marketing would know who these people are. I interviewed them and put their tips in there. So it's not just mine. But you need something that people would want to sign up for in order to get this content. But now you have them on your email list. And you would mention that every once in a while on your social media content or on your website to grow your list. But you need that. Again, when someone works with me, this is a non-negotiable because then you just grow your list and you can do more passive nurturing through email marketing, right? So what's going to happen is you're going to do all this cool stuff and people are going to reach out to you and say, hey, Jonah, how can you help me specifically? You know, I see you're posting all this content. I saw like the 10 biggest mistakes. I'm making 7 of them. So I got like a 30 on that test. How can you help me specifically? That's when we go to pitching and proposals. But the thing is, you're not pitching anything. You're diagnosing a problem. And if you have a solution, you're presenting it. So let's step aside from digital marketing or from consulting for right now. Pretend you go to the doctor and you tell her you're under the weather and she just hands you a prescription. You would say, well, don't you want to ask me some questions? Same thing. When you're on these calls, you don't just start pitching, you ask questions. And the thing is, when you ask questions, you don't necessarily need to have the answer that they're seeking. You just have to ask powerful questions that reveal blind spots and opportunities, and then later you can go ahead and solve them. So focus on asking questions. And here's a few you can think about during these calls. The first one is, hey, what's this going on? Like, don't start talking about yourself. Just ask what's going on with their business or personal life, depending on what you do. The next one's actually my favorite question. What change would need to occur in order for you to be happy about our time together? If you ask that question, this person's going to tell you everything you need to do to potentially win the deal. And maybe you can't. But the thing is, if they're unclear, that's a red flag. It's like, I don't know. Well, how would you know if they don't know? So look out for that uncertainty because if they're unclear what they're looking for, there's no way in hell you're going to hit the mark. You're going to be wasting your time, right? So maybe they're too early or they're just confused, so on and so forth, but that might not be your problem unless you want to prescribe a solution. But normally, if they can't answer that question, that's a red flag. You can also say if they have problems with price, okay, I get that. I charge $20,000. Other than price, what would stop you from moving forward today? And then answer any of those objections. And the last one I like is, well, do you want my help? So ask for permission to pitch, and in this case, send a proposal. But when you send a proposal, you're going to ask on the phone as well, what needs to be in this proposal? Who else needs to see it? How soon do you want to solve this problem? And the reason why you want to ask how soon is because if they're like, oh, 6 months from now, you're not a priority. But if they're like, oh, Q4, we got to get this done. Okay, cool. Because then if they ghost you, which hopefully doesn't happen, you can say, hey, Jonah, you said you had to have this done by December 15th. Right now it's December 4th. If we don't get started soon, there's no way we're going to meet your deadline. So have the client, in this case, the prospect, establish a deadline. That way you have a reason to follow up based on their deadline. Right? So again, obviously we go more into this in the course, but this is how you want to initially think about it. Next up, your packages and your pricing. So get ready to take notes here. And I would actually grab a screenshot of this one, super important. This is more or less your packaging you want to have set up. The first is your lead magnet. How are people made aware of you to the point where they contact you and or get on your email list? Several options, pick one because they have to be made aware of you somehow, right? The next one is what's called a tripwire. A tripwire is some kind of low price offering you have just to either pre-qualify someone for a more expensive product or serve people who maybe can't afford your services that are more full blown. It could be an hour of consulting. It could be an ebook, an online course made through Teachable, right? It could be a workshop that individuals attend and pay like $100 for. But you want to have this stuff in place because some people aren't really ready for a big commitment yet. They want to test you out, see what you can do, and then they'll be more willing to go forward and make a huge commitment. Next up is your core product. That's coaching, consulting. You can do audits, workshops, so on and so forth. And this is what you're known for. This is like your flagship product, and you can make a lot of money. But if you don't have the last part, in this case, which is called a profit multiplier, you'll never reach your full revenue potential. So going back to earlier to what I said about that sleep health educator, her tripwire essentially was hourly consulting for teachers. Her core product was consulting on a school level. Her profit multiplier was consulting districts. You want to think about it the same way. How can I charge 10 times, 15 times, 20 times more by serving value in a different context or on a larger scale? And again, with my program, this is a non-negotiable. You have to have this because if you get 1 or 2 yeses per quarter, maybe per year, you make a lot of money, right? So you have to do this. So grab a screenshot, whatever it takes, but this is what we go through in the course to make sure that you're set up for success. And in regards to a tiered service offering, you can think about it this way. You can start off with just like a 3-hour workshop. Now we're talking to companies maybe. Hey, here's how you audit your campaigns. You can also offer an audit with recommendations. That's the next step. Next step might be audit with recommendations and actually implement them and train their team. And then lastly, offer ongoing support. You want to have all this stuff ready because if they say, how can you help me? You want to give them an easy way to come in, saying this 3-hour workshop, which might accelerate you getting a yes for the larger packages. So always have an easy way for people to start working with you. That's called the wedge strategy, WEDGE. And that's what McKinsey uses to win bigger deals. So write that down too. All right, $1 million question. Terry, how much should I charge? Good question. A few ways to do it. You can just Google it and see what comes up. Why do this? Because your prospects are doing the same thing. And if they see the average digital marketing consultant charges between $50 and $200 an hour, you at least know what range they're looking for. Next up, some competitors might have their rates on their website. So do that research too. Get that real data from a competitor. You can also ask other business owners how much they paid for a similar service if you know someone who fits that demographic. And then lastly, once you grow your network more, you can ask other consultants how much they charge. But what I want you to do is think about it like in a logical way. And I'll tell you a story first. This one person that I talked to was doing social media audits, and he was charging $250 per audit. And then I said to him, well, how much do you want to make per year? And he said $100,000. I said, okay, well, do you realize you would have to do 400 of these audits at $250 per year to make $100,000? That's like more than one a day. That's you getting more than one yes per day too. You're better off charging $2,500 and finding 40 people who want to get it. That way you're only doing like 3 a month. So think about it that way. I like to think, how many yeses do I need to hit my goal? Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 100? Is it 400? I hope not. But from there, that's how you can back into a realistic price as well. Now, another thing you might want to consider to scale your time better, this worked very well for me during 2020, is group coaching. So group coaching or an accountability group is basically you delivering the same content, but at a group level. And you want to make sure that you carefully screen the people that are coming in because you're building a community. It's not just you making money, but the benefit of this is if you're brand new, you can be serving 5 people at once instead of 1 person at a time. And as a result, you get more testimonials coming in and you get more experience quickly as well. And you can actually charge a bit less per person as well, since the service is diluted a bit due to the fact that they're in a group setting. So I highly recommend considering this, especially when you're new. You get a lot of experience very quickly. And you can also implement what I call the 3 C's. You can have a course, an on-demand course, which is still the core curriculum for your training, coaching, that's when you do these group coaching calls with the team, and still offer consulting if you want. So the three C's are really important because that's how you get more leverage in regards to your service offering and can increase your revenue. Sample prices, maybe for the course is $600. A 3-month program for group coaching is $3,000, and then consulting could be $9,000 for one-on-one. I'm just giving you examples here of how to set this up. But make sure you have these kind of things at least considered as you're launching your business. And this is a screenshot from my website, just showing what people get from it: support, accountability, Q&A calls, that playbook I mentioned, as well as instructional videos. You want to have the same thing, and like just use emoticons, use like icons, make things look better. Don't just have bullet points because it's easier for people to read and understand. This is the actual online course that I use for my group coaching program, and I've been talking about a lot today. So you can see what it looks like there, as well as the coaching and consulting playbook. But even the way that I have this set up, you want to think about it as well. Look at the titles for all these things. Instead of me saying marketing, I say documenting your professional title, or developing your speaking topics, nurturing your high value prospects, cold email pinch templates, warm email templates, high impact survey outreach, and compelling insights. So even the way that you say things is marketing, right? So you don't want to just say what it is. You want to talk about the benefit as well, generating passive income, so on and so forth. Think about that as you describe your product or service to people. Don't just talk about what it is. Talk about the outcomes they'll get from it as well. All right. So in a minute, I'm going to start asking for Q&A, but I do want to wrap up with a very soft pitch for my course. And really what I want to say is this course that I have called How to Start a Consulting Business is basically everything that I messed up on during the first 9 months of my business, everything I've learned over the last 5 years and taught over 50 times at General Assembly, NYU, and various other organizations. And my goal here is to make sure that you have the support to continue growing. That's why I offer that live Q&A every Thursday as well. The same process I walked through earlier: clarity, process, branding and marketing, pitching and fulfillment, as well as like obviously pricing and revenue projections. We go through all that stuff through 50 training videos, that coaching consulting playbook. And again, you can ask me live questions every Thursday. I'll be there to answer them. So you can make sure you're getting unique guidance for your specific goals. What are you going to do? You're going to live a great life. You're going to accelerate the process of building your brand. You're going to save years of guessing and frustration. I like to say this: some of this information you would have found on your own eventually. So I'm giving you time compression and clarity, right? That's the benefit of this. You don't have to guess so much or feel that frustration I felt when I was first starting. You'll just get it through this process that I've tried over and over again with myself and with other people. And I think the best part is you can attract clients who value your input and are going to pay you what you're worth. So that's the goal. So for right now, you can gain access for only $250. And on my end, I think it's the best investment that I could have made. Obviously, when I was first starting out, I wish I had. And I think one problem that consultants have, or any professional service provider has, is we charge for our knowledge. And it's almost hypocritical that we're not willing to pay for knowledge, even though we know that's going to help us grow our business. So on my end, if I can pay $250, $1,000, $10,000, and it's going to help me make another 100,000 next year, it's worth it. But I think too many of us have that hypocritical approach. We're like, oh, I don't want to spend any money because, I'm not making enough right now. Well, that's how you make money. You invest in yourself. And on my end, that's what I want to help people do. So this siren is going to kind of drown me out soon. I'm going to hand it over to you, Jonah, and let you go ahead and grab any questions that are coming in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Terry. I always appreciate your presentation, and just the way you've broken it all down makes it so much more palatable, and just how you tie all the pieces together. Because I know it can seem like just starting a business is such a chore, or I shouldn't say chore because you're investing in yourself, like you said, but there's so much work to do. And then you have to market yourself, and then you have to organize yourself, and then you have to keep doing all of that over and over until it works. Every time I come away, I'm just like, yes, it's so possible. I did want to start off with one question. Well, everyone, feel free to ask questions in the chat there, and we have a couple I'll get to. But I thought something you just mentioned was so valuable, which is just like language, that you can market even just in the way you like are titling your course, like your course titles or stuff. And I just would like you to reiterate, like, we're talking about using language to always iterate the result, the growth of the person.
Yeah, let me see if I can grab something. So this
And maybe
book is
could you give
called
an example? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this book is called The Long Game by Dory Clark, How to Be a Long-Term Thinker in a Short-Term World. And I was talking to her about the book because she has like, some really cool names for things. Like she has a thing called Infinite Horizon Networking. And I'm
Hmm.
like, what's that mean? She's like, that's when you network with someone with no clear goal that you're going to get something from them. You know, the possibilities are endless. Maybe it's going to be something, maybe it's going to be nothing. But it's people who are outside of your industry, who aren't outside of your social circle. You meet them to see what happens. And I'm like, that sounds like a Verizon upgrade, Infinite
Right,
Horizon
right.
networking. But she deliberately thinks about these types of terms. And that's what the best of the best do. They have acronyms that spell things like I have the ACE model, I have the STAR model. And they're struggling trying to find something that spells ACE or STAR. But
Right.
literally, that's how you stand out. And another book over my shoulder you'll see is Limitless by Jim Quick. He does a great job of doing that stuff too. You want to have this thing that is your own that sounds like just so enticing by the way that you're using the language that it stands out. Not just saying here's marketing, here's sales or whatever. It's like really coul terms around it.
Right. And so even if it's just to like work through something, if I was doing a course on marketing and it was like rather than calling the first section like marketing mindset, how would you morph that into like a an actionable or transformation title?
Absolutely, you got it.
So okay, cool, love it. Um, and so here's a good, not like a direct question, but a wonderful like situation you're in. So level 9 or 10 in their expertise. This is Janice here, and then my challenge is figuring out the technology, et cetera, to find my ideal audience members. So any advice on like? I know you mentioned a couple things, but on like finding your ideal audience, finding your ideal customer.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yep.
I think she's okay. I have
Sure.
this shirt where I can like literally tuck her in here if I need to. So I might do that.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
yeah. But Janice, if you can let me know what industry you're in, that would help. But really, what you want to do is see where your tribe is, right? So let's pretend you do environmental manufacturing. I'm making that up. You can go on Reddit, you can go in Clubhouse rooms, you can go in Facebook rooms, so on and so forth. So I don't know if you need technology. I think it's just getting very clear on where they congregate, and then from there communicating with them. Because there are technologies where you're essentially buying like email lists of people that are in your target audience, but those lists have often been beat down so much no one's really opening them. I think, Janice, if I'm a 9 or 10, which is freaking amazing, I would go back to what I said about 20 minutes ago and have some kind of really good speaking topic, and then determine what organizations your target audience belongs to and have us talk for them. So let's pretend you help nonprofits grow. You would say, hey, Nonprofit Association of Brooklyn, I'd love to give this talk on, how to increase your givings during Q4, even though you can't do in-person events. That's a good
Hmm.
topic, right?
Right.
So what you'd want to think about, Janice, is if your audience walked by a newsstand here in Brooklyn, what would have to be in the title to make them want to stop and pick it up? And then that's the topic of your speaking topic. That's what I would
Right.
do, because in 9 to 10, like you don't have to try too hard to impress people. You have so much knowledge. I would do that.
Well, and then usually there's some sort of feedback loop too. Like once you start doing that, right? Once you put yourself out, you're going to hear back from people what they need and what they're looking for out of your business. Do you have any recommendation of kind of like that research of finding exactly, because I know you can be a 9 or 10, you have all of this expertise, but you don't exactly know like which niche or which aspect of that is best to market at first. Like, do you go to those Facebook groups as well, or how do you refine your like marketing message?
I'll give you a few tips, and this one I like a lot. You can do a poll on LinkedIn
Hmm.
that has something to do with your target audience and say like, "Hey, are you having challenges with your fundraising for your nonprofit in Q4? Yes or no?" And you can actually see everyone who votes yes.
Hmm.
And then from there, you can say, okay, well, where do you work? What do you do? So on and so forth. If you want, you can just
Hmm.
DM them and say, hey, it's Janice. I know she said yes on my poll. By the way, I have this PDF, 5 ways to increase your profits or your donations during Q4. Hell, if you want to cut the line, do that, because polls get a ton of reach on LinkedIn. If anyone's on there often, we'll see that. And please do follow
Hmm.
me. I'd love to connect with you. But you can literally like have people self-select who they are. Are you a working mom who hates the Buffalo Bills? yes or no.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, here's this
Right.
shirt. Like, moms who ate the Buffalo Bills. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you have to do. It's just getting creative with how you're using some of these tools and technologies, which are free in this case, and using them to self-identify people. I'll give you one more example. This one woman, I know she only works with women who are millionaires, and she had a poll on LinkedIn: "Are you a millionaire? Yes or no?" Every woman who answered yes, she sent them a PDF talking about her services. So that's the way to do it: is just get creative with audiences that are already out there, self-identifying themselves by how they vote in this case, or what groups they belong to.
Right. That's so awesome. And so to be clear too, those LinkedIn polls get reach beyond just like who you're connected with and stuff, right? That's
Yeah.
you're accessing a new audience.
Yeah. And let me answer Janice's question. She said,
Yeah.
"Can you go deeper on point two of my process, which is literally process your business process?" And I say these are the apps, tools, and routines that help you spend more time in your zone of genius, less time doing boring stuff. So one process I have is when someone books a call with me, a discovery call, I use a tool called Acuity. So similar to Calendly. And Janice, as soon as that happens and everyone else, it also goes into a tool called HubSpot, which is a customer relationship management platform that this person, in this case, will say to Janice, booked a call with me, and she heard about me from Teachable, and this is her industry, and this is the problem she has. So I have all that information in there. And then what I can do from there is I can have that bounce over to a tool called ConvertKit, where depending on how things go, I can put her on my newsletter to nurture her further down the line. So that's an
Hmm.
example of some of the technology that I use. It's also having a virtual assistant. Like,
Right.
we should all have one. I mean, my niece was doing that for me for a while, but like, whenever you find yourself doing something that's just out of your scope, like, it's just draining you should probably find someone else to do it, because you're better off learning something or sharing something with your target audience that's going to attract the next person, not trying to figure out how to indent a paragraph on Squarespace. Right.
Right.
So I
Right.
think one of the best tools we can use is our resources and other individuals to help us. So those are a few tools that I use.
And that's another investment, right? Like it may seem like, oh, I'm not at that point yet, but you have to invest in help to get to that point, right? Or
It's so
is
nice
there
when
a
you're just like,
point where it's like it makes sense or where it doesn't? Or
I'll say this. I mean, it's nice when you just ask someone to do something for your business. Like, hey, can you upload this stuff to my social media? Can you update my Facebook? Can you do some research? If I'm Janice, can you do research on people who live in Minnesota and work at this company, and give me the URLs for their LinkedIn? I want to start following their content and interacting with them. That way, if I do DM them, they actually know who I am. I'm not coming out of nowhere. What Janice doesn't want to do is go through the hours and hours and hours of research to make that list. She's better off paying someone $20 to do it than
right.
her expertise is knowing how to interact, how to comment, so on and so forth, to build those relationships. That's what I've done. I've literally paid a virtual assistant to give me a list of the biggest chambers of commerce in the US.
Huh.
I would then
There you
reach out and say, hey, can I talk to your audience about stuff? They say yes or no, but like, all the grunt work my virtual assistant did, all I did was like send out a form email saying, hey, my name's Terry, do you want to kick it? Right. That's pretty much it.
right.
So
Right.
that's what you want to do. You want to use that leverage more often.
And where do you recommend finding a VA?
Okay. So this is a perfect question, right? I always try to find the opportunity within the opportunity. And what I mean by that is saying, how can I go level deeper in regards to what I'm doing? So what I recommend normally is when you need anything for your business, whether it be a VA, a copywriter, graphic designer, whatever, announce it on social media. Say, hey, by the way, as you may know, I have this business doing this. They don't know. They might not know, but you're
Right.
advertising because you have
Right.
a reason. And I'm looking to grow. Does anyone know a good virtual assistant who they know, like, and trust? Anytime you need anything, just do that, because it's a good excuse to get in front of your target audience. But also, you want to find someone who's been vetted through your network, because the biggest
Mm,
thing is trust, establishing trust, right? But if you know Jake knows this person, Kelly knows this person, Jonah knows this person, you can kind of cut the line and just get to it. That's how I found all my virtual assistants, except for my niece. She's kind of grandfather calls in because her grandfather's my dad.
right.
But but that's what you want to do. But you see what I'm saying, though? Find an excuse to advertise in a meaningful way, but you're also solving a problem by getting this vetted source to help you.
Right, and that's so cool. So you can do that at every point in the process, even when you're looking to hire someone. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we do have to wrap up a little for time, but I wanted to ask one more question, which I like to ask as well. which Andrea, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, said, I would like Terry's URL so I can read the article he mentioned and what is his website. In general, where can people learn more about you, find out more about your work other than the courses, but just everything you do?
Yeah, the best place is well, three places. One is social at It's Terry Rice. My website is terryrice.co.co.
Hmm.
And then you'll find a link to my entrepreneur articles through the link in my bio, actually on Instagram or LinkedIn. So I would do that if you want to read those
Cool.
articles.
Cool. And for everyone watching as well, the course is available in the, oh, I should point whichever way it is in
Yeah.
YouTube. But it's in the chat. It's also in the description below and will be emailed to you as well. And there's a limited time on those offers, so make sure to take advantage of that. And thank you so much for watching and being active, and everyone for being here and helping figure out how you're going to build your consulting business. Terry, we appreciate you so much. And before we wrap up for the day, I just like to ask, kind of a final question of everyone. But I really appreciated the question earlier about, like, you have a business, you've established something, you've gotten over maybe the imposter syndrome a little bit, and you're trying to like form into this consulting and be like an authority in a different way. But in that effort to have that mindset, like, do you have just like a daily practice or a tip on just like every day how to get a little closer? Because I know it can be hard. You can try and set out these big goals, but what's the like daily practice to get there?
I think there's a few. It starts with having a vision for your life, both personal
Hmm.
and professional. And I'm really big on high performance mindset. I actually get into that in the course as well because
Mm,
that's important for me. If you look over my right shoulder, that's my personal philosophy. So I
mm,
think everyone should have a personal philosophy. Mine is powered by legacy, the legacy that my father left me and that I want to leave my kids through the way that I behave. But I think kind of what you're talking about is training confidence
mhm,
and being able to move forward every day. And what you want to do is document what are called epic thoughts. And
mm,
epic thoughts are you literally writing down 10 difficult things you've accomplished in your life. Maybe it was graduating high school,
mm,
getting a job, making a sports team, running your first marathon, whatever it is. Because confidence comes from within in past experiences, not from pep talks and books and all this stuff. So you're going to say to yourself, no, I've done difficult things before and I can do this too. Even those days when, like, man, this is a grind, this is tough. But going back to, again, you just being patient, realizing if you're doing purposeful things and you're preparing yourself for success, you'll get there. But if you try to rush it, you'll project lack and you'll project scarcity. And that's going to
mm,
scare people away because anyone who can help you often is being hit up so often by people just asking for stuff and scaring them away that you'll do the same thing by default if you do that. So anything relevant that's really happened in my career took months. It took months
mm.
to happen, sometimes years. Hopefully not years for you, but
Right.
you can easily get a win by doing something small. But the thing is, like, you want to focus on impact. And
Mm,
if you're doing things where the most you're going to make is $5, doesn't matter how hard you work, you're only going to make $5, right? so,
right.
so it's like
Right.
those bigger things often require more time and more patience, but that's part of it. And you're building a brand and a business that's going to reward you for years. So don't worry about the next 3 months. Worry about the next 30 years. And the way you
Mm.
do that is by being authentic, providing value, and growing your network through the knowledge that you share.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Terry. And everyone, thank you again for watching. Please hop in the comments. Thank Terry for his time and for sharing all this knowledge with us. And please check out in the description. We also have a link for Discoverfest, which is this whole week. We are doing events like this at least for a day from all sorts of walks of life and expertise. It's been a total blast and super excited for the rest of this week. And please like and subscribe to the Discover channel if you like this event. We're trying to bring more people like Terry out here to share their expertise and their knowledge and just grow this community of wonderful creators and entrepreneurs. Terry, once again, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you all soon. Have a
So
good one,
thanks.
Terry.
Take care.